One thing that came through very clearly was needing to uplift this idea that legal does not mean safe. We already understand that tobacco and alcohol are legal without assuming that they're safe in pregnancy. And so this work pointed to the need for some clarity, that same clarity around cannabis. A second major finding was that pain, physical pain, and mental pain, and especially stress, is a major driver of cannabis use during pregnancy. While cannabis may pose risks, stress itself is also toxic to pregnant bodies and babies. So, any response that ignored stress or that simply told people to stop using it without considering that what role marijuana was playing as a coping tool was going to miss the mark. A third finding was the importance of naming the racialized context directly. So the evidence was clear that Black families, and especially in the context of Baltimore City, have too often been met with suspicion, blame, surveillance, and punitive responses around marijuana use rather than with dignity and care. So this work had to be really intentional about not reproducing that history. Communication is never neutral. And so, if Black families have historically been approached through suspicion and punishment, then a provider conversation about substance use is not entering a blank slate. If we fail to name that context, then we risk designing messages and tools as though mistrust is an individual problem rather than a reasonable response to how families have been treated. It also matters because punitive communication undermines the very outcomes we want. So naming this history is not just about awareness, it's central to how whether communication will actually work. And this all matters because the history changes what, quote unquote, good response looks like. A response that focuses only on warning, correction, or individual behavior change can easily reproduce harm. A more effective response has to begin from a shared assumption between provider and parent that they want a healthy baby, a healthy pregnancy, and from a commitment to support rather than to punish. The literature also pointed to something important that helps shape our strategy, and that's that legalization may create more opportunity for open and honest conversations. One of the findings is that in other jurisdictions that after legalization of recreational cannabis, there's an increase in reported cannabis use in pregnancy. But increases in reported use do not necessarily mean increases in actual use. What's actually happening, they actually reflected people feeling more comfortable and maybe safer disclosing use to providers. So that matters because it's an opportunity and it means provider response becomes even more important. Taken together, these findings shaped a response that needed to center dignity, empathy, harm reduction, and partnership.